And hello and welcome you guys in the YouTubes. This is Dan and this is a very irregular video of mine, but I thought I might as well get into guns since people are more and more excited over the things. Well, I don't like to make things look easy because they're usually not. What we're doing here today is have a look at the SKS Strike Force stock. So that is a aftermarket stock from ATI. That goes on to our Canadian most favorite, which is the good old SKS. It's cheap, it's fun, it's super cheap ammo, a very reliable weapon. I personally love this thing, which is why I have at least two. And we're looking at why I went with the ATI and maybe do a quick comparison to the TAPCO stock as well. Well, not actually at the stock, but we'll do a quick comparison. I only handled it, and so I'll give you my feedback on that. So first things first, the stock that I have is highly modified. It is not out of the box. I also added a foregrip to it and I kept the bayonet. I shortened that. I have added a adapter plate for a red dot sight, so I welded that to it. Other modifications I had done is grind out the stock, modify a little bit by grinding on the insides, glue in the buttstock, basically the tube for the buttstock, modify the post that the grip, the handle bolts into, so it actually is nice and tight. And that's, I think, it. But we'll go over it in detail. So why did I go with the ATI versus the TAPCO stock? Well, the most obvious advantage is the foldable stock, okay? Foldable stock is fantastic. Shooting with it like that is just so much fun. It is a incredibly awesome experience. The other thing is it has a adjustable cheek rest, so that is fantastic. It goes very, very well with the red dot sight, and it has the sight Picatinny rails, okay? Out of the box, they're all plastic, but that is fine. They work just the same. So that is why I went with it. It just has features that otherwise would be very expensive to add to the TAPCO stock. The advantage of the TAPCO stock is really only that out of the box you could mount a sight in the front because it has the Picatinny in the top on the gas tube cover here. But it's kind of a piece of shit anyways. I wouldn't bother. When you buy the SKS where the TAPCO stock is already pre-installed from TAPCO, what they actually do is they install their tube, their piston, so it's a nice solid mount. Out of the box, what you get is something like that. Okay, this is the ATI and it's a little loose because I didn't bother making it tighter, but that is what you can expect from the TAPCO stock as well. There will be play. If it's not there now, it will be later. It is not a good place to mount the sight unless you buy the aftermarket complete setup. That's nice and tight, that works. So really you can disregard that. The obvious disadvantage of this stock compared to the TAPCO stock is that you have to either remove the bayonet or do what I did, is shorten it. So you can see it is quite a bit shorter, but at least it's still on there. Okay, because I hate that without it. Especially because your cleaning rod also needs to stay on there, my opinion anyway. So yeah, the other disadvantage of this stock is if you are putting a shoulder strap on it, you can pretty much guarantee that it's probably going to be too short. I'm a skinny guy. For me it works just, but because of how it is mounted on the side, and originally they want you to mount it on the top here. If you do run a sight, the sight is obviously going to be in the way. It's going to interfere with the strap, so that's no good. And if you have it on the foldable stock, again, it makes the strap really short. This is extended all the way out, and it is really short to, if you were to go over, well, basically your head with it. Just around the shoulder, one shoulder is fine, and that's the way I would shoot it quick anyways. And then once you fold it up, your shoulder strap again turns useless. somewhat anyways, so it's still kind of there, but it's not very accurate. So, but still, I want this strap because I don't like putting the guns into the dirt. So how hard is it to take apart? Not really. It has a few extra components compared to the TAPCO version, but it's not that bad. This screw inside here, I highly recommend to go to a bigger screw, maybe with a hex head right away. I haven't done that yet, but I probably will. See, all you get is a little screw that you easily lose. This is the handle, the grip, and this is the little screw that fastens it to it. Like, oh my god. Anyways, can take the magazine out with the bolt in place because I've made the modification to the bolt. And there we are. Now this comes apart really easy because I made a lot of modifications. Out of the box, this stock wouldn't even assemble. So what all do we really need? I don't want to scare you or nothing, but I want to be honest with you. I think the book, I don't even have the instructions anymore. The instructions pissed me off so much I threw them away. So they tell you, I think, to just have a Phillips screwdriver. I believe there was a second tool that you needed, which is definitely gonna be 5/64 Allen wrench. Say the book tells you you need the Allen wrench for the screws that are on the cheek rest. Okay, you'll need that and the screwdriver. Well, it's a little more than that. If you want to make that stock work for yourself and make it enjoyable, here's what else you need. Some kind of files for detailing, or if you don't have power tools, that's what you got to fly with. Glue. This is a buffer wheel you might need. You need a cutoff wheel. Most likely for when you modify the bayonet, some kind of flat screwdriver. I used a ratchet because you need a lot of torque to get that screw out even when you took the staking out. Some kind of heavy plate to use as backing plate for when you drive that little punch or the little pin out of the gas tube. Some kind of Dremel or grinder to make the modifications to the stock. You probably need a couple flavors of Dremel tools. And of course the hammer. I don't do anything without a hammer. Hammers are the best tool ever. I'll be on this side with my hole in the t-shirt because I'm that badass. Now, the glue. Why do we need the glue? First thing I did in this is, in the bottom here, they give you a spring to insert into the stock, which will assist into pushing out the trigger group once it's installed. So they don't put that in from factory, so it is loose. Probably if you take this apart a couple times, you will forget it, even the first assembly, so you'll forget that it's there and it falls out. Just take glue and put it in, and there she stays. The other thing I did is, because I didn't like that the adjustable stock was held in by just this tiny little dinky winky screw in the bottom, it actually had a lot of flex up and down. I just, well, put in glue as well and also screwed her really nice and tight, so now it's a real solid fit. So there's the glue. To actually assemble the stock or assemble the gun into the stock, there's a lot of modifications that I had to do so that it would go in easy, smooth and easy, and also accept the magazines, because originally the magazine sits too far back and you can't lock it in. The rear tabs, or the rear part of the magazine here, strikes the steel, and so you can't lock it. I had to grind out this gallery here. Okay, so I had to take that out a bit. I actually took quite a bit out, like let's say that's a 1/4 inch. A 1/4 inch that I extended this slot. Then I modified some back here as well. I took material out from here, roughly with this straight carbide tip. Took that off, as well as in here, so that the trigger group will fit in here real nice. When you get your stock, and I don't think it matters which one you get, but take the trigger group and try and slide it through even, and see if that even works. In my case, I couldn't even get it past this post here for the handle, the grip. Okay, so try that first. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you need to modify it. In the book they tell you the stock is made so that it's a snug fit. So how they actually made it is it's convex to the inside, so it really clamps down, which is nice, but yeah, it's too tight. So I did that. The back of the post here, the top actually, sorry. When you put the grip in, what happens is from factory that post is too tall, and so if you get yours, or even if you already have it and you're thinking about modifications, you might find it being able to do this. You get a slight rocking motion out of it. Maybe not right away, but it could be after the first 10 rounds that you see that already developing. So what I found is, with a little bit of grease, that this post is taller than the ridges around here. So I ground down this post, which allowed this whole handle to now seat onto the rim, the ridges here, and now it's a solid fit. Again, it's also just a tinky little screw that I wouldn't even put into my watch, but a guy can easily drill that up a little bit and put a more aggressive, a thicker screw in there with a nice hex head, and then apply a ratchet to it. I think that will be just fine. Okay. Also, what I came across is, for the gas tube, when I first got the stock, it wouldn't assemble. The latch, this latch here, that lock, wouldn't engage. It would strike the top right here all the time and would be way too tight. So I first started by filing down a little bit, and then I thought, well, shit, you idiot. It worked before, so what changed? Well, what changed is the fact that the stock is a little bit too tall. I haven't done this in any nice way because I was excited I'm gonna go out shooting, so I just took the knife and I kind of etched out part right here. So when the gas tube sits on here, the original plate, the steel plate, does not have enough room to get down into the stock, and therefore it's raised too high up and it can't latch. So I took out the plastic, the polymer there, so that it can actually go down a little deeper into the stock, and now it latches just 100%. Also, what they don't tell you, and this is one thing that is in the TAPCO kit, is this pin. For this pin, it is not hard to remove. It is a little trickier to get back in, but what is bullshit is that they don't give you a new pin. They tell you to get some kind of nail that you have maybe laying around, maybe in your foot or something. But anyways, I just used the original pin because it just happened to still fit. But essentially they should have given you a new pin. So they make you drive that out, and do that carefully if you want to keep it, if you don't have a nail stuck in your foot, and then just put it back in and you're good to go. So then for the bayonet, obviously I had cut it. And wherever I threw the piece, I played with it yesterday cleaning my fingernails, but anyways, I still have the piece. So I cut it off and I just, smoothened it out. So that's what I used that buffer wheel for. So obviously a cutoff wheel, a grinder works just fine, but I just used this on air. And then buffed it a little smooth and kind of matched the shape again. So that's what that is. But this, to do that, of course, I had to take it off. And for you to take it off, they put staking in here. So they take a chisel or something, a punch, and they do one or two hits onto the back of that screw, which mangles, of course, the metal and clamps onto the screw. So I drilled those out a little bit, but it's still a bastard to get out. So that is where I used the ratchet and the flathead screwdriver and really got the torque on that. So then you can take it apart, careful spring inside, and yeah, then I did the modification to that. The magazines, I have two, as you've seen previously. I also have a black one, just to see which one looks better. I have done no modifications whatsoever, other than this one here. I have modified a little bit on these corners, and I'll show you later why. But other than that, every magazine, at least in this particular SKS, every magazine off the shelf will work. It's the other SKS that it won't, and I'll show you the difference. So again, the files I used for a little bit of filing here and there, you know, just the tiny modifications in the stock, just to smoothen things out again. And same with the back of that gas tube, which I shouldn't really have even bothered with. And yeah, that's that. The block again is going to give you the support to drive that pin out, because it is in there really good and you want to have something solid to drive that through. Yeah, and then the different Dremel tools, you want a nice straight one to do the modifications on where you ever have the straight surfaces, just to keep it nice and neat. Then I also needed a really small beveled one that basically allowed me to go into the corners of this particular stock here. Okay, so I could modify that. The bolt is the standard mod that you can find on the interwebs, except I didn't take all of the material out. As you can see, it looks a little bit like a, well, one of them sand clock. So I didn't take the entire edge out. I just took out where the magazine goes inside of. Okay. So I can remove or put back the magazines with the bolt in place. Those are basically all the mods I made. Oh, of course, and the red dot sight. This is the Cabelas model because that was on sale and I thought that was a cool thing to have. The mod that I did is I crudely welded on a little adapter plate. I thought I should bolt it down because I may want to change that Picatinny. So that's why I did it that way instead of welding a Picatinny on there. Beside the fact I had this plastic one left over, the ATI stock comes with 2 extra Picatinnies, and yeah, I just basically eyeballed her on there, welded it, then drilled hole through this hardened steel. So there's screws in here that go through the Picatinny as well as the adapter plate into this cover. It is a very snug, tight fit, the original cover. That's why I went with it. I've shot about 80 rounds through it and it is still on 0. So at 50 meters. Again, what are the modifications that you would expect from making to your SKS stock, to your SKS? And what should you pay attention to when you're working with it? Number 1, your bolt. When you have your bolt out, make sure that the firing pin is nice and loose. That is the first thing. If you want to take it apart while you do the grinding, go ahead. Do you have to? No, absolutely not. I didn't take it apart. It's clean enough. It didn't accept any of the filings, and especially when you're careful. So then I made the modifications to accept the magazine with the bolt in place. That's that. I've ground the stock so that the actual gun parts will fit nice and easy. I can take it, field strip it just the same way as before. Obviously now you need a screwdriver to take the handle off. I have added a red dot sight. I have glued in the tube for the adjustable stock. I have added a foregrip, which makes the gun handling amazing. It's absolutely incredibly nice. I have shortened and kept the bayonet. So if you do want to add the eyelid, the eye for the strap mount on the stock, then you'll have to drill a hole. That's not original. At least the hardware comes with the stock, so you get this fine thread eye and the nut that are usually leftover parts, and you can drill a hole through it and mount it that way. I was originally going to use the coarse thread, but as you can see, there's not a lot of material there, so this is the more solid mount. However, they do make you get another set of tools, which is, well, just the T20 Torx. Okay, to get the screws out of the stock. Who knows why they even bothered with that? It's kind of a silly thing, but they sure did. And so of course you'll need again a drill bit. So you'll need the drill bit for maybe increasing the hole size of these eyes, and as well as drilling the hole through the polymer there. The first thing that I noticed are quite a bit different, and this is the 51 model versus the 52. On the bottom here, there were two really sharp edges. Okay, I had already ground those out. I hope you can see that there. Okay, which this one didn't have. It looks, actually, I'll do a side by side here. It looks entirely different. Okay. You can see that, right? Completely different thing. So that is why I went ahead and I actually still got to take some more out, because I am having troubles with the other magazine in here. When you compare it to the actual box magazine, I think you can see the difference. Essentially then, as these box magazines fit in here, they of course have no problem to match the original, okay, and fit right in there. But once you have the extra wide plastics, you don't have that same fit, and it is actually really snug. Versus this model here, which supposedly is the 54. Well, this in turn doesn't even have those edges. And you can see a clear gap right there, which is great for when you want to run the plastic or polymer. It's not plastic, it's polymer. Douche. Okay, so that's great. So if you have that issue where you have those noses, happy filing will take you forever, unless you go with one of these. I mean, well, maybe not the pointed one, but one of the die grinders. Go in there and take that stuff out. Alright, to summarize, so why would you choose TAPCO over ATI or vice versa? Well, here are the main differences. ATI comes with cheek rest, foldable stock, big bonus. The handle, the grip, feels way better than the TAPCO. Even though it is looser, it's not as solid, and it does not look as nice on the transitions. But other than that, it looks better on the gun. The ATI has two side Picatinis, the TAPCO does not. The TAPCO out of the box will accept the original bayonet. You don't have to do any modifications, but you do not have the same room for the bottom handle. The foregrip. It is a longer stock on the TAPCO, which makes it also a little heavier. I have no idea how the TAPCO stock actually installs on the gun, if it's any better than the ATI, but I would suspect because it is polymer and the rifles are all very different, you still have to do a lot of modifications, so that really does give or removes no points whatsoever. The TAPCO stock most likely mounts a shoulder strap way better than the ATI, although the ATI is not a problem. The only thing I had noticed, both shoulder straps I have did not fit into the provided eyelids, so I actually had to drill them out. So I guess you can add drill and drill bits to your list of tools you may require. So obviously the ATI stock, if you want to keep the bayonet, you have to cut it. And it does provide you with the advantage of keeping your cleaning rod. Still looks good, and you can take apart the gun without actually having to touch any of the two components. Out of the box, the TAPCO stock is no good when you consider the top Picatinny on the gas tube, as you can expect it to be just as loose as this, while this may be a little looser because it does not have the additional pins in the bottom. But still, after a while of using the stocks, I have heard that it doesn't work consistently, reliably. Price-wise, the ATI stock was more money than the TAPCO would be. The TAPCO stock, I believe, was $50 cheaper.